This NBA Finals Game 3 Player Props edition of the Propcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. You can win up to 325 times your entry with their new Pick 8. Sign up with promo code NBA SGPN to claim your special pick and first-time deposit offer up to $250 in bonus cash. That's UnderdogFantasy.com. Make sure you use that promo code NBA SGPN. And we're also brought to you by Rhythm. Get the best data-driven props and picks from Rhythm. Claim your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM. Welcome, everyone, to the Propcast, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. It is Tuesday, January the 11th. Here to get into our Game 3 player props for the NBA Finals on Wednesday night. The series shifts back to, to Dallas for Games 3 and 4. We'll recap what we saw from a player performance standpoint from Game 2. Obviously, some injury news that did come down before we did get to record the show for the player props for Game 3. We'll get into all of that here on this episode, and of course, our best bets as well to wrap up the episode. But joining me here to help me break everything down happening on the hardwood, got my guy here with me. It's ChrisBeCappinn. Chris, what's going on, my man? How you doing?
What's up, I'm doing pretty good, man. We got another sleep here, before we get into to Game 3. Yep. Series transitions back down, back to Dallas, and hopefully it's an exciting Game 3. I know if we see the Boston Celtics go up 3-0, man, it's not going to be pretty for how the playoffs have played out so far. And I'm excited to to dive into it, man. I know the looks in Game 2 weren't as good as the ones in Game 1, but ebbs and flows, like we talk about all the time. We know that the finals have really sharp lines, and looking forward to talking it out with you and seeing if we can find ways to get to the window and kind of pick your brain on a couple as well.
Yeah, turned out to be, I think, a okay episode, at least for Game 2. I know my best bet did get to the window, did discuss PJ Washington's PRA to go over. That one got to the window. I think we also discussed Jason Tatum rebounds and assists to go over the number of 14.5. He fell the rebound short of getting a triple-double. So pretty good pod there, at least for some of the props that I did give out. But Chris, I mean, look, let's get into it. The elephant in the room, the injury news on the Boston Celtics side. Kristaps Porzingis diagnosed with they just copy and pasted this thing and didn't get any explanation. So what I had to do is I had to bring in the SGPN doc, the DGen doc himself, and I said, "Sir, please help us out here with what is going on with Kristaps Porzingis." So in so many words here, Chris, it's pretty much an inner ankle injury, and the part of it that is injured is the connective tissue that holds things in place, and that's what Sebastian Firon talked about when I tweeted at him, and he said it tore in one of the muscles it's holding now that is out of place, so likely going to need surgery. And he says definitely not playing, probably going forward for the rest of the series. And a lot of other people that are medical professionals weighing in on the injury, saying, yeah, this is going to be a 3 to 4 month recovery time, and pretty much is going to have to opt for injury. But the media day availability, Kristaps Porzingis said that he's going to do everything that he can to be out there for the Boston Celtics. But Chris is going to go one of two ways. It's either that Porzingis goes out there and he plays and he's not very effective and he's limited and he's going to be jogging up and down the floor, just getting his cardio in, and a possibility that this injury could get worse. Or I believe in the latter, that I think he's done for the series here, Chris. But I don't know what are your thoughts on once you did receive the news about Porzingis and his injury.
Yeah, it doesn't look or sound good. It doesn't look. We know Porzingis is already injury prone as well. And I noticed it as soon as it happened, too, man. I don't know if you was watching it when it happened, but it was a couple minutes left in the game. and you just see him walking real gingerly up the floor. I think it happened when they were on offense, and then he, tried it back down on. Well, it happened when he was on defense. He tried it back down on offense, and he never really looked like himself. He ended up giving up that lob on the next play. I think it was to Daniel Gafford, and then Joe Mazzulla called the timeout to get him out of there. He didn't return. I think it might have been 2 minutes left in that game, two minutes and some change left in that game. And I said, man, Porzingis did not look good there. Yeah, I mean, if that's what the injury is, it's new, and I know he'll want to be out there, but the medical professionals will probably say, you don't want to risk this, long term, right? And that's what you always got to think about. I know it's the finals. I know you want to be out there with your team and you want to battle with your guys, but you don't want to risk it long term. And you did put them in a position where they're 2 wins away from the NBA finals. So I think he'll do everything he said, like everything he can, like he said, and try to give it a go. I'm just not sure how sustainable that's going to be moving forward. I think if you're Jason Kidd, you have to make sure that you do everything possible to make sure that he is very uncomfortable if he does attempt to be out there. You put him in, every different action. You have him moving so much that, just kind of like Rip Hamilton, just back and forth, whatever you can to, make that injury as stressed as possible. So I don't like the chances for Porzingis finishing out this series. I'm not even sure how much he plays into game 3 if he at all suits up. How are you thinking about it?
I think he's done for this series, honestly. I really do. Even Dr. Chow, I'm not sure if you're familiar with him, the Pro Football Doc.
Oh, yeah.
He also tweeted out saying Kristaps Porzingis is not day-to-day. Expect him to miss the rest of the NBA Finals for the Celtics and likely going to need surgery to repair the injury. So,
and all his player props will come down to as well. All
exactly, right. So also want to shout you out because usually we record earlier in the day, and if we would have recorded earlier in the day, we would have missed this news, and maybe the player props would have gone a little bit differently. So I think the timing really perfectly worked out for us here to do the Propcast. So that's a big news from the game 2 as far as injuries go. I think everybody is a go. We did see a note on Sunday, game 2, Chris, that Luka was downgraded to questionable before the game with I think classified as a back injury. And I mean, I don't think there was any doubt that he was going to miss the game for the Dallas Mavericks. But something that I did notice in game 2 here was that we saw Luka come out in the first quarter. I think we dropped 20 points, if I'm not mistaken, in the first quarter. But as the game got progressively, as the game progressed on, I should say, it just seemed like Luka was running out of gas as he got into the second quarter, third quarter. And it really showed up from the fourth quarter that I thought he was a little bit too passive in that fourth quarter and just didn't have that closer mentality like, him and Kyrie did in the series against the Minnesota Timberwolves. So that was a little bit telling to me for Luka. So I'm not sure if he needs to get his teammates involved a little bit more early on and maybe like pace himself and when it matters the most. In that fourth quarter. If it is a close game, that's where Luka really takes over. But I'm not sure if you noticed the same thing or not, Chris. But I just feel like that his game, progressed on. Luka just looked worse and worse, and just looked like there was not enough gas in the tank, we should say.
Yeah, I mean, to put the numbers behind him, after what you're saying, 9 for 13 in the first half. He had 23 points in the first half, 3 for 6 from the 3-point line. And you mentioned the first quarter. 13 in the first quarter. 13 in the first quarter, shot 71%, 5 for 7 from the field, hit one of his 2 threes. The third quarter, 6 points. He shot the ball twice, made both of them. Fourth quarter, shot the ball 6 times, made 1. Only had 3 points in the fourth quarter. We thought he would be the best player on the floor when the game, when it was crunch time and the game really came down to it. But 9 points, him off in the second half on 3 for 8 shooting is not going to get the job done. Especially when you add in that Kyrie Irving also shot just 2 for 8 in the second half. Only finished with 6 points there. Luka was a -3 in plus-minus, even though he did have 8 assists and 8 rebounds in the second half specifically. So, 9, 8, and 8 doesn't sound like a bad number when you're going against the Boston Celtics and you're getting blown by on defense. It's still not going to be enough. And we saw them kind of run out of gas late, like you said, lose their game by 7 points. Did PJ Washington get pushed in the back on that dunk by Jaylen Brown? Probably so. Did we see a different outcome? Potentially, but I mean, I think it was still a double digit. Well, not double digit, a double possession lead. I think it was 5-point lead at that time. So he could have potentially cut it to 3 if he hit both of the free throws. But we'll never know now. We do know that, like you said, 15 points between your two stars in the whole second half of basketball is not going to get the job done, especially when they're playing primarily the whole thing. I mean, they both played 21 plus minutes in the second half out of a potential 24 minutes. So yeah, right there with you, Munaf. They have to play better, and Luka is going to have to find those teammates, and they have to knock down shots too, Munaf. This is the other part of it. They shot the ball putrid. Specifically in that second half, they shot 2 for 13 from the 3-point line, 15%. And we know that it was another really poor 3-point shooting night. Boston, we give them a lot of grief, but even when their shots weren't falling because they didn't shoot the ball well either, they were able to win it with their defense. Held Dallas to only 98 points and an offensive rating of just 105.8. So getting it done on the defensive end, even when their offense, was a little stagnant, those 3-pointers weren't falling,
Yeah. All right. Before we continue the conversation here, I got a couple more points I do want to make from game 2 before we get to our player props. But make sure you guys check out the new daily podcast dedicated to giving out underdog picks, The Daily Dog. New 10-minute episodes dropping Monday through Friday. The Daily Dog, wherever you get your podcast. And also, the Circa announced they're giving away $16 million in guaranteed prizes for Circa Survivor and Circa Millions. Sign up in Vegas and play from anywhere with footballcontestproxy.com. Make sure that promo code SGP to get $50 off. That's footballcontestproxy.com. Make sure that promo code SGP to get $50 off. Yeah, Chris, a couple more things that I want to mention. Just quickly going back to Porzingis. I know offensively, we've talked a lot about that. They have the depth to the Boston Celtics to compensate for having a guy or not having a guy like Porzingis. But I think more so, for me, I think it affects him more on the defensive side of the basketball because Porzingis is a guy that gives you that rim protection. And now we're going to see that Al Horford is probably going to get the bulk of the minutes now if KP's not going to be able to go. And that just means that it should be barbecue chicken for both Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic, putting him in the pick and roll. So I think that's where the offensive success is really going to come for the Dallas Mavericks. So not really having KP out there for rim protection, because we saw in game 1 when he did come back after 10 games that, yeah, he had that great first quarter scoring wise, but he was also making a difference at the rim and altering shots. And he had, some blocked shots in there as well. That was a huge difference maker for this Boston Celtics team. So I think for me, it's more so a loss on the defensive side. Yeah, he stretches the floor. Yeah, he can knock down 3-point shots for you. Yeah, he can knock down those mid-range jump shots as well. But I think now this gives the opportunity for Jason Tatum to step up if Porzingis is not able to go in game 3. And now you are really compromised on that defensive side without Porzingis. And I looked up the numbers a little bit, and the defense it's worse without Porzingis out there. So I think that, again, now is the time that if Porzingis is not able to go, that Dallas really has to take advantage on the offensive side with him not being out there. I don't know if you had thoughts on that notion that I just mentioned.
Yep, and then that'll take us straight to a couple of the player props here, But I'm definitely in agreement with you there. I think the biggest thing, and we've seen it, right? Even in the last round against the Indiana Pacers, they were able to score the basketball. Boston won that series, but remember, they didn't cover those spreads. It was because they were able to outscore the Pacers, not necessarily because the defense played so well. And in game 1, we remember, Boston didn't get out to that 17-point lead they had at the end of the first quarter until Porzingis came into the game. Remember, it was a 1-point game until Porzingis came in with about 7 minutes left in the first quarter. And you just see his impact. PJ Washington tried him a couple times. No, not at the rim, not against me. And then even if he's not blocking shots, his ability just to alter shots, to get out to the 3-point shooters and make it a little bit more comfortable, make them rush their shot a tad bit more. I think all of that comes into play. And losing a guy like him and having to replace him with Al Horford that is still out there competing as hard as he can, but just some of those capabilities with that wingspan and the youth and the agility not quite there for Al Horford. And you would think that it would be a big game for some of the guys that I'm pretty sure we both going to talk about him.
Yeah, so let's get into it here, Chris. Those were the things that we did see from game 2, and then obviously the news about KP that I did want to touch on here. So I think that really is going to change what we look at as far as player props go in this game. So I'm pretty sure that I feel like we're gonna be aligned on some of these player props that we do have here. So I'll let you lead it off here. Chris, what do you got for player prop number one?
So we're going straight to the guy that's going to be the beneficiary that you talked about him enough. I like Tatum. I like him over his 26.5 points here. I mean, the double-double, I think, is minus 140, minus 145-ish as well. I wouldn't be mad at anybody that wants to play that. But you mentioned it. Tatum to have a signature game in the playoffs offensively, and I wouldn't even say offensive. I would say scoring-wise. Because I think that what Tatum is doing is being overlooked because he's not shooting the ball as efficiently. And we know the media will take things and twist it all the way around, up and down, and put it all in all kind of knots. If the Celtics were some way found a way to lose game two, it would all been blamed on Tatum. Even though he was one rebound shy of a triple double, him shooting, scoring just 18 points on 6 for 22 shooting, he would have been ostracized. He would have took all the criticism for how bad, he was, shot the ball specifically from the 3-point line, just going 1 for 7. But now Porzingis not being there. We've seen Jason Tatum go on the road and have really big performances throughout the playoffs. I specifically remember, him being interviewed. I think it was, can't remember exactly who interviewed him, but he said, we live for going on the road. I love being able to settle my team down in hostile environments. There's everybody in here versus us. And that, tends to bring out the best in myself. So no Porzingis. Tatum shot the ball 22 times. If he shoots the ball 20 any times, I think, next game, in game 3 tomorrow, I think he, goes over this 26.5 points. And we could also expect some regression as well coming from Jrue Holiday, who's looked absolutely magnificent. 26 points on 11 for 14 shooting. And granted, he has some mismatches out there and probably saving his best basketball for the finals specifically. But no Porzingis, means a little bit more usage for Tatum. And eventually, I think some of those shots are going to fall. I expect him to shoot a little bit better than 1 for 7 from the 3-point line. We know Dallas isn't the greatest defensively from the 3-point line. He also just missed some bunnies. That's the last point I want to make. He missed a lot of bunnies at the rim. I expect him to be able to finish some of those easy layups over Daniel Gafford. Everybody is blowing, straight past Luka Doncic like he's a cone. If he gets that matchup, and I'm pretty sure Joe Mazzulla is going to put him in those actions so that they can have Luka, as the primary defender. I like Tatum to go over his 26.5 points here. And I don't like too many points over his, but I'll take Tatum to have a signature scoring game on the offensive end.
Yeah, I think we're all just kind of waiting for that Jason Tatum 29, 30 plus point game. And it could be in game 3 or, game 4, possibly game 5. But I personally think that this will be one of the higher scoring games of this series in game 3. Right now, the total is sitting at 213. Obviously, it's come down from games 1 and game 2. But just adding to your point, I'll throw my Jason Tatum prop out there as well. I just tacked on the rebounds with it. Points and rebounds to go over the number of 36.5. And you take a look at what Tatum's been able to do on the road, specifically in the playoffs. He's had double-digit rebounds in all 6 games that they've played on the road. And they've won all 6 games as well. He's gone over this projection of 36.5 in 4 of the 6 games. Wasn't able to do it against Miami. Wasn't able to, in the first round, I should say, in the 2 road games against Miami. But against Cleveland, 33-13, 33-11. Against the Pacers, 36-10, and then 26-13 in game 4 as well. So I know the minutes are going to be there for Jason Tatum. He's played, I think, 45 minutes each. 42 and 45 in the first 2 games of the finals here, and he's averaging around 43.5 minutes over the last 5 games, dating back to the Eastern Conference Finals. So now with Porzingis, again, I'm just going to go inside. I think that he's going to be out for this game. That is going to open up a little bit more shooting, rebounding opportunities as well. But I think Jason Tatum definitely does continue breaking down. Getting the rebounds for the Celtics. I do think that he should have a better shooting night because, again, he's just been woeful over the first 2 games at home. But in particular on the road, he's been absolutely fantastic for this Boston Celtics team. So I'll take the points and rebounds to go over the number of 36.5 for Jason Tatum. All right, Chris, before we just continue the conversation here for our player props for game 3, let me tell everyone about our friends over at Underdog Fantasy. Hey, look, Underdog Fantasy, the Pick 8 is now live for the NBA Finals. Create entries with up to 8 picks, and Underdog will automatically double flex entries. So you can miss up to 2 picks and still win your entry. With more picks to make and extra ways to win, the excitement is higher than ever. The best part, you can win up to 325 extra original amount. You can now use specials and boosts on all flex entries. I can't wait to make another pick 8 entry. I did it for game 1. Unfortunately, they ended up going 4-4. But I'm going to be doing another one for game 3 here. So stay tuned for that. Check my socials. I'll put out another video, but I definitely will have Jason Tatum in there in some capacity because both Chris and I agree that he should have a bigger game here for the Boston Celtics. So don't miss your chance to try it out before it's gone. So sign up with promo code NBA SGPN to claim your special pick and first-time deposit offer up to $250 in bonus cash. That's underdogfantasy.com. Make sure you use that promo code NBA SGPN. All right, Chris, take us over to player prop number 2, my man. What do you got?
So, real quick, I want to get your thoughts on this. So you can get Jason Tatum. I know you mentioned his rebounds. You can get Jason Tatum on FanDuel to be the rebound leader in the game. I think without Porzingis, could potentially take away a couple rebound opportunities from Tatum. But I think we will both agree that it's probably going to be Tatum or Luka that's going to lead in rebounds. You can get Tatum to be the rebounds leader in the game at plus 210. So
I like that.
I don't think that's a bad look. You mentioned him going over in every single, road game so far. I think that's a pretty good look as well. So I wanted to make sure I mentioned that as we transition off of Tatum. Next player I'm going to, I'll go on the opposite side of the ball, and I'll go Daniel Gafford here. Looking at his points plus rebounds, this line is sitting at 13.5 right now. And I love it. I absolutely love it. I think after, Luka went out there, only had 1 assist on 7 potential assists in game 1, everybody was betting his assists under in game 2. And what does he do? He go out there and get 11 assists, right? Daniel Gafford looks like his old self again, finishes that game with 13 points and 9 rebounds, I think it was. So he's coming off a game where he had 24 points plus rebounds, right? And I think being back at home in a do-or-die game with a season, pretty much a season on the line, you also got a Porzingis, that is not going to be out there. So those lob attempts that we saw be limited in game 1, and they found them. Luka ended up finding a couple of them in game 2, but I think those come back here. I think that's the key for Daniel Gafford to go over this points plus rebounds. So I'll take it. Like I said, a compromised Porzingis if he does play back against the wall, coming off 24. I only need 14 here. I'll take Daniel Gafford. Looks like the lights might be a little too bright for Derek Lively in the playoffs, in the finals specifically. Don't like what I'm seeing from him. But I do think Daniel Gafford is going to be out there. And, I think he combines for more than 14 points plus rebounds here.
Couldn't talk you off. I think this might be the opportunity that the lobs are going to be there in this game for Daniel Gafford. And I feel like he's been playing more minutes than Derek Lively, if I'm not mistaken. I'll double check that. But game 2, he did play 23 minutes. He was 6 of 9 from the floor, 13 points, 9 rebounds. Game 1, he was 3 of 3 from the floor as well, 8 points and did have 3 rebounds. But I do expect him to be out there, maybe 20 plus minutes in that neighborhood again. Take a look at Derek Lively and what he's been able to do in game 1. 19 minutes and 18 minutes. So it seems like, that Jason Kidd is just splitting up those guys' minutes. They're playing the same amount of minutes, it seems. But I feel like that Daniel Gafford is more effective for them on the offensive side of the basketball. But we know he can also rebound the basketball as well. Where Derek Lively, it's all right. He's just catching lobs from Luka or Kyrie and just finishing around the basket that way. Or he's intentionally getting fouled and trying to getting to the free throw line where he's just not very good. But look, we talked about it a lot. They brought Daniel Gafford for a reason. I think that he should be a big part of rebounding, especially, but then also, like you mentioned, with Luka getting 11 assists in game 2, and I think the lobs are definitely going to be there for a guy like Daniel Gafford in this game. So couldn't talk you off. All right, Chris, let me get over to player prop number 2, and I think that, again, a lot of it with Porzingis playing or not playing, I think the assumption where he's not going to play, that just means that Al Horford is just going to be out there for this team for, again, 30 plus minutes without Porzingis in the lineup. And I think we talked about this in game 1 where I did like Al Horford on his player props. And he did get over the number. It was at 13.5. And now I know it's been adjusted to 19.5 now on his PRA. But Just trying to quickly pull up the numbers here. So without Porzingis in the lineup, he's right around this number: 10.7 points per game, 7.3 rebounds, and 2.1 assists. But it also does come down to the fact for me that I think Horford is that the Dallas defense may just give Horford the opportunity to knock down those 3-point shots and leave him wide open. And there's always that one game in every single series where Al Horford has like a 20+ point game, right? We saw it in game 3 against the Indiana Pacers. He had 23 points, 5 rebounds. Didn't have any assists in that game. Going back to the conference semifinals, the series clinching game in game 5, 22 points, 15 rebounds. And against Miami, he was a little bit more consistent as far as PRA. But there's always that one game where Al Horford does step up. So I'm expecting him to play more minutes when Porzingis won't be out there. I think worst case, what happens is that they try to put Porzingis out there and it just doesn't work out for him. He's not feeling it and he just sits for the rest of the game. And I think that's just going to give more minutes to Al Horford. But I know Al Horford, he's a guy that can obviously rebound the basketball. He's been able to get some assists for you there as well. He's able to have that. He has the ability to knock down those 3-point shots and also those mid-range jump shots as well. So again, at even money right now for Al Horford on his PRA, I definitely want to get behind him. So Al Horford PRA over 19.5 here, Chris.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me, Munaf, and the reason why you like Al Horford a little bit more than any other of the bigs is because he's the guy that Joe Mazzulla is going to trust on the road specifically.
Yeah.
And we've seen him have really good road games as well. So, like you said, a compromised Porzingis. I mean, I think it's pretty telling. You said the line moved 6 points as soon as the injury news came out. Yeah, I mean, that's enough. The minutes will be there. He also does a really good job of staying out of foul trouble. He only had 2 in game 2. And he still played 28 minutes, even with Porzingis playing 23. So it did kind of seem like Joe Mazzulla was slowly but surely bringing Porzingis back, and we expect Al Horford to play northward of 30+ minutes in this game. So I love that look, of thinking that Al Horford's going to be involved, because the last thing I'll mention, one thing we know about Boston, they could care less who scores the basketball. They could care less who gets the rebounds. They just want to win, and especially if Al Horford gets to cooking, he could get a big chunk of this in one quarter specifically. So like the Al Horford look a lot. Hadn't thought about him, but I know he cashed for you in game 1 too.
Yeah. All right, Chris, take us to player prop number 3, man. What do you got?
Let's go to Old Faithful, Jrue Holiday. I'm not sure why we get off the wagon now. I know you were on it earlier, hit me up, and I'm jumping on right now. Over 10.5 rebounds and assists here for Jrue Holiday. Something that he's cashed in both games, and we talked about it. Maybe it's because he was saving his best basketball and he knew what his team, if they had a weakness, what it would be, and he's just kind of sitting back playing that center position, saying, okay, we need a little bit more of this. Okay, I'll do that for this team. He is a Swiss Army knife. He's a guy that can play in the post. He's a guy that can lead the team in assists. He's a guy that can go down there and rebound the basketball. Big, strong, physical guy that plays a lot of defense. And all the sacrifice that he's had to put forth throughout the season has probably prolonged his career. But now he's really getting a chance to showcase that, on the defensive end by slowing down Kyrie. But we also saw him shoot 11 for 14 from the field. I think there's some regression there. Don't think he has 26 more points, but him being able to go down there and rebound the basketball, him being able to facilitate and get his teammates involved, I think those opportunities will stay there. So he finished with 14 rebounds and assists in the last game. I expect him to be the guy that settles this team down. He is one of the veterans on the team as far as experience goes. Him and Al Horford. And I think that'll, help with the assist opportunities. When they're coming down the jack and, a few too many threes in a row without any of them going in, I think he'll be the guy that settles down the offense. They'll, Joe Mazzulla will call the plays, and he'll be the quarterback out there. So I'll take Jrue Holiday to go over his 10.5 rebounds and assists here.
Yeah, couldn't talk you off. I mean, Drew's been that guy, I think, solely maybe entering the conversation for finals MVP as well, if he continues to be consistent as he has been in the first 2 games of the NBA Finals here. And a guy that's been there, right? We saw him with Milwaukee, obviously when they won the title a few years ago. But coming off a game where he had 26 points, more importantly, 11 rebounds and 3 assists. He's gone over this number in each of the first 2 games of the NBA Finals. Game 1, 8 rebounds, 5 assists. Game 2, 11 rebounds and 3 assists. So, like I think for Jrue, it's that he lets the game come to him, right? And think that wherever role that the Boston Celtics need him to be in, if he needs to be a scorer, We saw that in game 2, but he's also a guy that can rebound the basketball. He's a guy that can dish out the assist as well. So yeah, I'm a Drew fan, man. You know that. So I couldn't talk you off of Drew's rebounds and assists to go over the number of 10.5. I was debating which one to say for the honorable mentions, but I'll give this one out as the third player prop bet here. Going to the Dallas side here. Haven't been on a lot of props on the Dallas side. I know I mentioned PJ Washington on the last episode, but I'm gonna go with another role player here, and he's really flourished in Dallas and specifically. That's Derrick Jones Jr. His points and rebounds to go over the number of 12.5. So the Dallas Mavericks have played 8 home games in the playoffs thus far, and Derrick Jones Jr. has gone over the number of 12.5 points and rebounds in 7 of those 8 games. The only game he didn't was, 2 games he didn't. So it was against the LA Clippers. I believe this was game 6, and then in game 3 against the Thunder in the conference semis where he had 3 points and 4 rebounds. But 6 of the 8 games he's gone over this projection. He's actually averaging 11.6 points per game in Dallas in their playoff games. He's averaging 4.1 rebounds. He's always good for at least maybe 1 3-point shot made, but I mean, he had 3 straight games from beyond the arc, I should say, against the Thunder, Minnesota twice. So the last 3 home games, I should say, that he's made at least 2 3-pointers for the Dallas Mavericks. And they're going to need that, right? Like we talked about at the top of the episode, is that they haven't shot the ball very well in the first 2 games. And these role players coming back at home, PJ Washington, Derrick Jones Jr., if it's Josh Green coming off of the bench, we also saw some Dante Exum minutes in that game 2 as well. So they're going to need these guys. I think Kyrie will play a lot better as well. But I do like Derrick Jones Jr., especially at the plus odds right now, plus 105 for this prop. So another points and rebounds play for me here. Derrick Jones Jr. over 12.5 at plus 105.
Yeah, this was definitely on my short list, so I'm glad you like it too. I'm probably going to get there with you. Like you said, the cap is pretty much similar. You just expect them to play a little bit better. I saw him airball a 3-pointer that didn't even look like it was going to touch. I don't even think it didn't touch the rim, but I don't think it touched it. Like it just was clear, maybe 2 feet off. I said, man, wow. Because if you think back to game 1, it was very early. He hit a 3 to start the game. Remember, they hit the 3 to start the game, and since then he's gone 0 for 4 from the 3-point line. He finished 1 for 2 in game 1, didn't hit a 3 in game 2, and you just know that he's going to be out there. He's going to play 32 plus minutes, maybe even more, especially in a do or die game. And the looks are going to be there. So you just expect the role players to play a little bit better at home, like you said. If I expect them to be super aggressive, and I expect him to be in somebody's gym right now getting up shots here, and I think that that's what they've done, at least for some of those role players. Remember, Dallas shot just 23% from the 3-point line in game number 2. And in game number 2, they shot 23% from the 3-point line. And game number 1, they shot 26% from the 3-point line. So if Dallas needs to do anything, it's to score the basketball. 89 points and 98 points not going to get the job done, because you're playing really good defense against Boston, holding them to 107 and 105. But you got to be able to score more points. This is not 1991. This is not the slow-paced team. These are 3-point shots, and we're seeing crazy variance right now with Dallas not being able to knock down any of them. And give Boston defense credit, but it's going to look a little different without Porzingis being out there, like we already talked about, if he can't give it a go here. So Derrick Jones, all of those things make Derrick Jones Jr. definitely live over the points and rebounds, and I'll be telling you on that one.
Love it. All right, Chris, before we do get over to our honorable mentions, let me tell everyone about our friends over at Rhythm. Hey, if you're betting on NBA player props, and that's why you're listening to the Propcast here, you need to check out Rhythm. Rhythm gives you the menu of the best player props for every single NBA playoff game, and it's easy to go through and find the best props to put your money on in seconds. Rhythm's predictions are backed by over 3 years of data. A team of data scientists and quants that focus on fine-tuning our algorithm to give you the best shot at winning. Rhythm pairs its predictions with player prop graphs to help you feel even more confident in your picks, which you can make wherever you normally place your bets or DFS picks. From superstars to bench players, Rhythm finds the best player prop lines, all backed by AI data without you needing to endlessly scroll through a sports book. Rhythm allows you to create your own custom NBA models so you can get AI-backed money line, spread, and total picks for every playoff game. Claim your 7-day free trial by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM. And we're also brought to you by Game Time. Hey, look, the NBA finals are here. I know the Stanley Cup finals are going on as well. And obviously MLB's in full swing as well. And you probably want to get out to some of these sporting events. And maybe it's not a sporting event. Maybe you want to get out to a comedy show. Maybe you want to get to a theater show that's near you. Well, let Game Time help you out. And I talked about MLB. Well, guess what? Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down closer to when it gets the first pitch with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. Some of the best things I love about their app, honestly, if you haven't used it yet, is that they always have last-minute tickets, flash deals, zone deals as well. It's easy to find and buy tickets to MLB games, and it's also for every kind of event in your area, like I mentioned. Their lowest price is also guaranteed. They also have event cancellation protection as well. And like I mentioned about those last-minute deals, you can save up to 60% off buying last-minute tickets for sports, comedy, concerts, and theater. Save even more on their flash deals with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or event. They also have zone deals. Save even more when you choose a section and let Game Time choose the seats for you. You also can get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you actually buy it. Lowest prices are always guaranteed. Our Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time and download the Game Time app now and create an account and use promo code SGPN for your first $20 off for your first purchase. Again, terms apply. Create an account, redeem code SGPN for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, Chris, let's get into some honorable mentions here, my man. What do you got as far as honorable mentions?
So this is probably one that I'm gonna end up playing. If I have not pulled the trigger on this yet, but you can, if you go into, I'm looking on FanDuel specifically at some of these player quarter specials, you can get Luka and Kyrie to combine for more points than Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown in the first quarter specifically at a -135. I know that that's a tad bit juice, but boy, we talking about desperation. We're talking about backs against the wall. We're talking about Luka already having, a monster first quarter / first half in game number 2. And maybe there is a little bit a sense of urgency for Dallas, specifically on the defensive end here. So, Kyrie has been subpar to say the least. Of his inability to be able to, he's getting to his spots, but none of those shots are falling. He's looked like a glorified role player for the Boston Celtics. I mean, for the Dallas Mavericks against these Boston Celtics in Boston. After we just saw him, do whatever it is that he wanted to do in that last series against two really good defenders as well. Anthony Edwards and Jaden McDaniels. So we know what Luka is going to bring to the table here. But if we just need Luka and Kyrie to combine for more points than Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Now, the part about Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, I'll say, is they're not necessarily the guys that have to go out there and score the basketball, right? We know Porzingis is out, but what if Al Horford ends up hitting a couple threes in the first quarter? What if it's Drew Holiday that continues to keep it going? What if it's Derek White who hits a couple threes early? So it's not that it's just, Jason Tatum. It's that it's Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. It could be any of those guys for the Boston Celtics because we know that they have a lot of guys that can impact not just the defensive side of the basketball, but the offensive side of the basketball. So I love that one. It's probably my favorite prop that I've looked at so far that I don't have any money on yet, but Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving, just to have more points than Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown through the first quarter here in a desperation spot, game 3 down 0-2. I really, really like that at -135 sitting on FanDuel right now.
And look, if Luka has another 20-point first quarter, you could probably put the bow on this one because I do expect not only Luka to come out and play aggressively, but also Kyrie, man. Like Kyrie has to step up in this game 3. I think that, again, he's going to have to be the difference maker. At minimum, he's going to have to get 20 points in this series. In this game. And again, if KP's not out there, that changes to kind of the defensive game plan as well for the Boston Celtics a little bit as well, and also the offensive game plan for the Dallas Mavericks as well. But yeah, and that's the exact thing that we talked about, right? Like at least for like the first two games, and at least for the series, when we knew that KP was going to be back, that we knew that different guys could step up for this Boston Celtics team. And we saw that in games 1 and game 2. Like Jaylen Brown's been the only consistent 20-point scorer in the first two games, where we saw KP in game 1, like we talked about Drew Holiday in game 2. And we're both of us are expecting Jason Tatum to have a bigger night in game 3 at least. But at least for Dallas, we know that if we look at the end of the box score on game 3 and they put up 110 points, let's just say, I think a very, very high percentage of those points came from Kyrie Irving and Luka, for the Dallas Mavericks. So yeah, I couldn't talk you off of this one here, Chris, for honorable mention. What I'll throw out there, Jaylen Brown on his steals at over 1.5. He's been really good on the defensive side of the basketball. Game 1, 3 steals, 3 blocks. Game 2, he came back with 3 steals as well. When I looked at this number, it was at minus 105 on the over 1.5 steals. Let me get you the updated number. This number has now moved to minus 112 on the over for Jaylen Brown steals. So I still think that the defense will be there. The defensive stats will still be there for a guy like Jaylen Brown, because again, he's one of the better two-way players on this Boston Celtics team, frankly. So I think that effort will still be there from Jaylen Brown. And for him to already have had 3 steals each in the first 2 games, asking him to get 2 here, I don't think it's a tall order for Jaylen Brown, because I know the minutes are going to be there, and he's going to be either matched up on Luka or whether it's Kyrie Irving. And both of those players, especially Luka, has been a little bit turnover prone in the first 2 games at least. So that was one I wanted to throw out there as far as honorable mention at Jaylen Brown over 1.5. And one more I'll mention here, Chris, before I'll hand it back to you here. PJ Washington hasn't made a 3 yet in this fourth quarter. Sorry, in this NBA Finals. I believe he's 0 for 7 or 0 for 8. They had it at 2.5 at plus 124, but then now they've adjusted it to minus 180 on the 1.5. I feel like there's going to be the game where PJ Washington, at least in this game, knocks down at least 2, but I don't want to lay that minus 180 price. So if you're a parlay player, if you want to add that to like your same game parlay, PJ Washington over 1.5 3-pointers made, I do think that this might be a game bang back at home for PJ Washington to knock down over 1.5 3-pointers made here. So that's another one I did want to throw out there here, Chris. Any more that you like?
Yeah, I think I like the PJ Washington one a lot. The looks are gonna be there. The above the break 3 that he just continues to make. He hasn't been shooting a ton of them, but like you said, none of them have been able to fall. So it's either gonna be him or Derrick Jones Jr. in my opinion, that one of those 2 guys make 2 threes, potentially even 3 threes, because the looks have been there. Maybe they just need to get back home and get some home cooking, but you would have to expect them to shoot the ball a little bit better. Remember, I just talked about the 3-point percentages for the Dallas Mavericks, and they've been below 30%. Well below 30% in both games so far. And it's contributed to them not being able to score the basketball under 100 points in both games. I think Derrick Jones Jr. is plus 178, 176 to knock down 2. So maybe a sprinkle there. But, this is something that you would just expect. You would expect, them to be, hearing the narrative that Luka needs help. And that they're not being able to score the basketball as much as they have. And credit to Boston's defense, but as you mentioned here, with no Porzingis, it could look a tad bit different. Also, just when I think about the pace, I heard Coach Jason Kidd talk about wanting to play with a little bit more pace, so they don't have to play against that set Boston's defense. So I do expect them to be able to run, try to get out in transition, which most of the time leads to either downhill attacks at the rim, they get all the way to the rim, or knock out. Transition 3-pointers, because you spread out to the wing. So I like both. One of those guys, maybe you sprinkle on both, but PJ Washington or Derrick Jones Jr., one of those guys, because of the minutes that they play and the defense that they bring, are going to have to knock down some wide open shots. And I do think the looks are going to be there with Kyrie and Luka heating up.
Yeah, I do stand corrected that Chris mentioning in the chat that PJ Washington did knock down 1 in game 2. He did go 1 of 5. So overall 1 of 8 through the first 2 games of the NBA Finals. But I think getting back home for PJ Washington, I think that may be a little bit more advantageous for him because he's knocked down, let's see, in the conference semifinals, he knocked down exactly 2 in the 2 home games. In the conference semifinals, he had see, game 6-2, game 3-5, game 4-5. First round against the Clippers, he went 1 of 9 in games 3 and 4, and then he did knock down 4 of 8 in the series clinching game in game 6. So, yeah. Yeah, so that's it. That's it. You have any more, Chris, before we get to best bets?
Nah, those are the ones that really stuck out a lot.
All right, let's get to best bets here, man. What do we got? Where are you taking us for your best bet?
I think everything we mentioned here, Munaf, I think I really like the Drew Holiday over 10.5 rebounds and assists, but I think I'll go Tatum. I think we haven't seen that signature Tatum game yet, and
Yeah.
we expect the Porzingis that is going to be compromised. Jason Tatum to kind of go out there, shoot the ball at least 20 times again. Some aggression from Drew Holiday on the offensive side of the basketball. To me, that just, I mean, everything about this game screams big step up game for Jason Tatum, and I expect those shots to fall. He's getting good looks, like we talked about it, either from the 3-point line, getting all the way to the rim, missing some of those bunnies, and I expect a few of them to fall. So, big game for Jason Tatum, and coming him off, I like him over 26.5 points here.
Yeah, I couldn't talk you off. I'm gonna pivot here a little bit. I'm also gonna give out the Jason Tatum one. But I'm just gonna take his rebounds to go over 9.5. I like that number, and this is at -122 currently over on DraftKings. But again, like we always said, definitely shop around for the best number. Game 1, rebounding wise in the NBA Finals for Tatum, he did have 11 rebounds. He fell 1 rebound short of the triple double in game 2. But like I mentioned, in all the road games, in the 6 road games that the Boston Celtics have played, he's been in double-digit rebounds in every one of those games here. And I think now without Porzingis out there, that those gives even more rebounding chances for a guy like Jason Tatum. And he's been playing 42 plus minutes in each of the first 2 games. Chris mentioned that Jason Kidd mentioned that they want to play with a little bit more pace, which will mean more shots getting up, more possession, so more opportunities to get those rebounds as well. So, yeah, I'm going to take Jason Tatum over 9.5 rebounds as my best bet for this game 3 of the NBA Finals. All right, that's going to wrap it up for this edition of the Propcast NBA Finals Game 3. Player props in the books. Chris, anything else you want to mention, my man, before we get out of here?
Enjoy the game, man. Hopefully we I need Dallas to win, just from a NBA basketball junkie perspective. I don't want to see a sweep. I know how how deflating it'll be if Dallas ends up losing this game 3 with no team ever coming back down, 3-0. Porzingis is compromised. It's the perfect opportunity for them to do so. I think Dallas does have some dogs. They just got to make some shots, man. So I'm selfishly rooting because I want to see more basketball and I don't want to see a sweep. Selfishly rooting for Dallas, but enjoy the games, man. And we'll catch you guys in the next one. Appreciate everybody for tuning in as always.
Hey, don't worry, Scott Foster will be calling game 3 on Wednesday, the extender. So at least it'll be 6-on-5 out there. We'll see which way the other refs are going to be swaying. But yeah, look, this is a game for Dallas. Like if they want to have a chance, like this game is it. This has to be their all-in effort. But I do think they show up in a big way here in this game. So hopefully when we come back for game 4, we talk about some more winners that we did give out and how we've done it thus far for games 1 and 2. In game 3, we'll recap what we saw in game 3, give out our player props for game 4, which will only have 1 day off in between games 3 and 4. So don't have to worry about waiting for 2 days. So game 4 will be on Friday. So maybe me and Chris will come back on Thursday and then, do a propcast for game 4 of the NBA Finals for our player props. So, yeah, if you haven't already subscribed to the NBA Gambling Podcast, this is a good time, but also the Propcast feed as well. That will be 365 days a year. We're going to be talking about NFL, obviously NBA. We're also in the works of firing up some things for the MLB as well. So good time to subscribe to the Propcast YouTube channel as well. Make sure you guys follow Chris on X. That's at ChrisBeCappinn with 2 P's and 2 N's. You can follow me there as well at SportsNerd824. Till then, good luck with your bets. Let's break these books off and let it ride.